What's up guys? Today's video is going to be a quick one. I just want to check in on the Texas scene. There's this account that I follow on Instagram called Texas Music Pickers, and they have this proprietary chart. There's a whole methodology to how they make it, but it looks at the top tracks in the Texas country scene every week on Spotify. And I love following that because there's such a built-out infrastructure for mainstream country music, and you can see when things are popular on Billboard or when they're getting awards at major award shows, but it's kind of hard sometimes to quantify what's actually popular in the thriving, bustling, red dirt, and Texas scenes. Plus, Rick Beato, who's one of my very favorite YouTubers, has been doing this series where he listens to the top 10s on Spotify in different genres, and they've been super entertaining. I've heard some of these songs. He's usually totally in the dark, but I just thought I want to try something like that because I'm working on a few videos now, and to be honest, they're just kind of longer processes. So today I'm doing something easy. Before I start, I just wanted to mention that I appeared on Finn McKenty's podcast, and if you don't know who Finn is, he's another one of my favorite YouTubers. He's known as the Punk Rock MBA, and we had a really awesome freewheeling discussion about music, about being YouTubers, and some of the pitfalls of that. Honestly, you guys can thank Finn for that podcast that I recorded a couple weeks ago, kind of kicking my ass back into gear because I was just sort of in a bad way, and sometimes processing it out loud is good. So I recommend you go listen to it. I loved that conversation. But now let us jump into the world of Texas country. Y'all know I love it. I have a whole video on the subject that I recommend you check out. But let's see who are the top 10 last week. At number 10 is Kolby Cooper with 2 words. I've talked about Kolby just here and there a little bit. I think I described him as sort of Luke Combsy. He's definitely got a rock influence, kind of like a lot of the guys down in Texas, not dissimilar to Koe Wetzel, or I know a lot of people send me Pecos and the Rooftops, and I feel like he kind of fits into that a little bit, rougher around the edges, grungier sound. But let's listen to this song, 2 words. Yeah, there's that rock sound. I'm excited to find out what the 2 words are. I mean, that's kind of enjoyable to hear. He's like, kiss my ass didn't work, keep your piece of, can I cuss? Yes, it's my channel. I don't want to get demonetized. Keep your piece of POS car out of my front yard. But the main thing that I want to say to you is F you. That's really funny. This is almost like She Hates Me by Puddle of Mudd. That's almost what it reminds me of. Just sort of a ridiculous, I'm bitter and angry breakup song. And that exact scene I was discussing of kind of like the rockier, college-y, like Texas, sort of a little bit fratty acts. That fits perfectly. Come on, like this is like for a heartbroken college boy. I think the sound of it's great, a really clean electric guitar sound, and it definitely pulsates. Like it definitely has a driving beat that goes through it, and I think Kolby's voice sounds really good on it. His voice has always been strong. I wasn't crazy about the production on some of the first things I heard from him, but this just sounds a lot cleaner, brighter. I'm in. Number 9 is Curtis Grimes with Friends. Recognize the name. Not going to pretend I know anything about the music, so let's just jump in. Immediately love the steel and fiddle. Woo! Now we get the piano. That's awesome. Okay, so the sound of this song is gorgeous. This is a perfect example of how I often feel about music that people send me out of the Texas scene. It's like, lyrically, I would make fun of this song if it was a Nashville song. I mean, we're talking about a little road and going out to an outdoor party, and how it's kind of a lifestyle branding song. And it's like, well, we can be friends if this is your kind of life. And I always say that's not a bad thing in and of itself. I just think it's derivative, and sometimes Texans can be a little bit haughty. Like, we would never write like the people in Nashville write. And it's like, well, no, sometimes you do. And it's okay, but sometimes you hear the music and it's so unimpeachably beautiful, and the fiddle is so present, the steel is so in your face, that when you just take like what I would say are normal, average lifestyle lyrics and exceptional music, well, that's a lot better than normal, average lifestyle music and terrible music, So I get why, like, this is why I love the Texas scene, is for this, and it's kind of how I felt about a lot of the last Aaron Watson record. Yeah. Oh, number 8, Randall King. Y'all know I love Randall King. He's got a song called Around Forever, which I've heard, but let's listen again. under the Friday night lights in this music video. So Texas. His voice is so good. Just classy. Just classy. Just sound. Oh! The steel is so glorious. But I like that it's leveled. What I'll say is in this song, his voice is so good, and I like that they let that be at the front of the mix. It's not like one of those really fun, kind of chaotic mixes, kind of like we heard on the Curtis Grimes song, where we were getting the fiddle and the piano and the steel. This is like a little more in the background because his voice is so clear and expressive. It's definitely, you know, I'm not the first person that's made the George Strait comparison. Number 7 is the Josh Abbott Band with Settle Me Down. Okay, I feel bad kind of about this last Josh Abbott Band record. I was just at my wit's end at the end of 2020. I could not listen to one more new piece of music, and he responded a funny tweet when I put out my last album roundup. Like, hello? What do I have to do to be heard? But I was like, dude, I'm going to give you so much love with the Panhandlers, and I have no more room in my brain for any more music this year. I haven't really listened much to this album, so Settle Me Down. Let's check it out. I love the art. All these little cacti. I'm a sucker for Western art. This sounds the closest to what I would think of as kind of mainstream country radio material. This is like the Texas version of it. You know there'd be a trap beat on this if it was produced out of Nashville, but instead you've just actually got the hi-hat getting hit, a little, not as skittering as it would be on a trap beat, and then you've got the with the steel in this. It would be an electric guitar doing that sound at the end of the chorus. So this is savvy, you know. Josh Abbott is one of the biggest names, and he knows how to make music that has that mainstream appeal. Honestly, that's not my favorite song from him. It's a little bit sappy, but it's cool for me to see, okay, there's still some of those ingredients that I recognize from country radio that are happening in the Texas scene as well. And it is a romantic sentiment, the idea that someone settles you down, especially for a touring musician. I imagine a lot of musicians learned something like that during this pandemic year. Okay, number 6 is Charley Crockett with a new song called I Can Help. Charley Crockett, Welcome to Hard Times was one of my top songs of last year. I am stressed out by Charley Crockett because the man releases so many freaking albums. Like, I think he's released 11 albums. He's putting out 2 this year, and I just feel like I can never get caught up. My musical circadian rhythms are much slower than his. So I haven't gotten to this yet. I love Charley's voice, love the kind of like woozy Western New Orleans laid back style. Love it. Oh, wow. I'm back in time immediately. Don't you feel flirty? Don't you feel a little like naughty? I do. This swings. Now this is a snap track I do like. Alright, bringing in some of that tambourine as we're getting that nice little electric guitar solo. This all just feels so laid back and vintage. Ugh, all I want to do, I scroll down on the comments of this video to see what other people are saying, and the freaking no comment rule on auto-generated YouTube videos drives me crazy. Let me see what the fans are saying. Let me get the top comment. That's what I want. You really hear how distinct that sound is when you hear it alongside everything else that we have listened to so far. It just completely stands out and feels different. Just so much more jazz and blues are in his sound. So, man, I'm glad I got to check that out. Number 5 is another guy I haven't listened to before. It's a guy named Chris Colston, and the song is called Slow. So we got the Texas flat brim. That has so become a thing I see in every music video. I feel like Koe Wetzel is the clear style influencer for this whole next gen. Or maybe Parker McCollum. Alright, this feels kind of like that Kolby Cooper song does. It's hard sometimes when you hear a song for the first time and you're watching it with the music video, because there are parts of this music video just kind of the style of it is so sleek, and him standing in front of the truck feels like a trope I've seen before, and I have such a negativity bias of like, oh, this is going to be cliche, so I almost need to just hear it without all that. I mean, to me that felt like a little bit the same thing I criticize Riley Green for sometimes, of just using a lot of somewhat connected checklisty things of saying like a Friday Night Lights, but it doesn't really feel like a clear narrative. It just feels like a lot of analogies. This is not my favorite. What am I going to do, pretend? Yeah, to me, this feels almost like a Jason Aldean, Brantley Gilbert record. And the thing is, it's so much more charming when it comes from the Texas scene. It just is. It's when you know that not millions of dollars are being spent to promote this song to radio and fly people out for the Today Show summer concert series, and there's not teams of stylists and photographers and social media managers and all that stuff. Yeah, it's easier for me to be like, look, I think this is a pretty cliche song. But then there's the other part of me that just kind of admires the hustle. The people are doing it their own way. And more power to people that can build a base. It's not dissimilar to what I said in my last Granger Smith review. The top 4 people are all people I've talked about on the channel before. They're actually kind of the reason I wanted to do this video, because I was like, damn, this is a great example of the heavy hitters, the coolest people that are in the independent scene, the Texas scene, not really the red dirt scene, but there's a lot of overlap there. But just when I talk sometimes to people in Nashville and they're telling me who are the buzzy new artists, the 4 people I mention are these 4 people. And with the exception of the number 1 guy, the others, sometimes you get responses that are like, who's that? And you're like, who is that? You should definitely know who that is. This is who everyone on TikTok is in love with. These are the people that feel a little more outlaw in their image. Not necessarily that they're all saying F the system, but that they are kind of making it without the system. Their audience is connected to them and passionate about them. And the first person, number 4 on that list, is Kat Hasty, her song Pretty Things. I don't need to listen to this song because I've already talked about it here on the channel in my Under the Radar video, but I really want to sing that bridge, so let's go to it. Y'all ready to tell off this girl with me? Because I am.
You go on and marry that lady, wears Louis Vuitton and drives.
I don't know who Dallas Girl is, but man, you can't not feel yourself when you're just telling off this imaginary, snooty Dallas Girl. There's so little content about Kat out there on the internet just yet. She did a thing with Zach Bryan and the Belting Bronco and sang Where the Wildflowers Lay over on his channel, and I'm pumped that there's some kind of high quality video I can include and other people can include and just kind of start to get some imagination around Kat Hasty, because her folksy, stark style just super stands out. Much like I was saying with Charley Crockett, this feels different and people love it. Number 3 is Good Die Young by Koe Wetzel. And if you've been watching me for a while, you know my journey of not really understanding Koe to sort of quietly becoming a Koe bro, which is my own term. I am sure that he and his fan base do not accept it, but look, I've kind of become a Koe bro. I sort of feel like one of the boys going to Texas A&M when I'm listening to Koe Wetzel, even though that's not me. I mean, hello, look at my apartment. Obviously, I reviewed this record. You can check out my album roundup where I did. And the whole album is sort of sad and raucous and dark. It almost is like the same vibe as that song Live in the Dream on the Morgan Wallen record, where it's kind of drugged out and unhappy. And that's what this song is about, where he's saying like Jesus called and no one was there. And this story's kind of played out where the good die young. And yet, and this is where Koe is sort of interestingly self-destructive, he's like, I don't want to think about tomorrow. What if it never comes? And so there's this just kind of live while you can dark mentality to the whole thing. I cannot with him in his like Sherpa bathrobe and cowboy boots and... Dude, the video does such a good job selling this. I feel like this is so well produced. It looks beautiful, dark, trashy, and he's so much more expressive just facially. I feel like this director did a really good job bringing that out of him. Now that I'm really paying attention out into this scene, you really just see how influential Koe Wetzel is. His sort of devil-may-care attitude, his fearlessness is kind of over the top. He kind of carries himself like a rock star or like a pop star, and there's this kind of meta marketing built into how he presents himself. And he's always, I mean, he's a giant dude. He's the kind of dude that can be a little bit fat and still look like ripped when he's shirtless. We don't all have this luxury. But he's over the top and self-aware in a way that makes him really interesting to follow, even on an album like Sellout that I think kind of isn't that great. I get what he's going for, and I like that he's going for something. And in his case, it's this sort of sellout, drugged out rock star who can't be tamed. Maybe he's like a little bit Miley in that way. He can't be tamed. I'm so bummed I can't go to the shows down in Texas where he's playing with Hardy, which that's a union that needed to happen. It just makes perfect sense. Number 2 is Zach Bryan with November Air. What more do I need to say about Zach Bryan? I freaking love Zach Bryan. I love how he markets himself. I love the poetry in his writing. I love his wordplay. But let's just listen to a second of November Air and just get a taste of it.
Worthless poor boy from the flat to make him mean something through November Air. Through November.
That song is so pretty. That song is so interesting. I still have a little bit of trouble interpreting it because it feels a little bit like a story that maybe fits into the EP where this guy is sort of reaching out to a mother he wishes he could communicate to. And obviously Zach's whole first album, Deanne, was about his late mother. And so it's hard not to see that in this, but it doesn't quite sort of make sense. It feels maybe like it's a little bit related to Crooked Heavy Teeth, or maybe it's just a little bit surrealistic, but that stark style that I was describing with Cat Hasty, it's so cool to me that it's blowing up other songs like November Air by Zach Bryan. And I feel like other evidence that maybe this next generation of country fans is craving this sort of intense, singular type of music is Lady May by Tyler Childers, which just couldn't be more simple. I mean, it's that voice, it's that guitar, it sounds beautiful. He also put out a song on his channel recently called Ninth Cloud or Cloud 9 or something like that. Love it. He's doing a lot of weird stuff on his channel right now, and it's cool. And then the number 1 song on this chart is Parker McCollum with To Be Loved by You. And I had to read through the chart methodology because I was like, Parker McCollum? How the heck can Parker McCollum be on this? Because he's obviously signed out of Nashville, as is Randall King, to be fair. But for so many people, Parker is still kind of the limestone kid. He is still based out of Texas. That's where he made his name, and I think it's going to do a lot of good for the industry for him to kind of be one of those bridges where the people in Nashville are becoming aware of him and his friends that are coming out of that scene. To Be Loved by You is not on his Hollywood Gold EP that I reviewed last year. I still listen all the time to Hallie Ray Light. I freaking love the song Hallie Ray Light. It's just a jam. So let's check out this. Although I'm just realizing, does this mean Young Man's Blues is not going to be a single? That makes me so sad. That makes me so sad. It's a Rhett Akins co-write. Such an interesting vocal choice right there. Down, down, down. He like lets himself fall off on those vocals, and he just has almost a really rock influenced style in that way. You're not going to hear that normally on a big country single, so intriguing. Okay. What are we going to do in the bridge here? I'm curious. Showing off his vocals. Ooh, did y'all hear that ascending line? I love that. Like it. I'm not ever expecting that in the chorus when he jumps up there. Very cool song. Very cool song. I've always said Parker McCollum's good at longing. That is just, it really suits his voice. It suits his style. I think I realized it when listening to Hell of a Year a few times. I'm like, okay, this is his special sauce. The same way that I always say Luke Combs, he's got that relatability. I think Parker McCollum has got longing and sort of this frustrated, in love boy about him. And he's like, what does a man got to do to be loved by you? Now, this does not have the same kind of instrumentation that we heard of in-your-face steel, in-your-face fiddle from some of these other Texas tracks, but I think it's not going to sound a lot more organic on a mainstream Nashville recording right now for a song that might go to radio than this. I mean, I really am hearing the strums so clearly on the guitars. We've got the real drum set right there. Maybe I'm hearing a tambourine in the mix. I'm not quite sure, but it's a pretty organic sounding song. Not like a crazy stunning lyric that I never would have thought of, but I like that so much more than Pretty Heart. I like that so much more than Pretty Heart, and yeah, I'm kind of a Pretty Heart hater. And honestly, I think that's the best his voice has ever sounded. I feel like he's really stretching himself on that song, and sounds cool. I'm looking through the rest of the list and seeing some of the other names I wish I could talk about. Very cool to see Caitlin Butts's How Lucky I Am, which I mentioned in some sort of roundup I did recently. I love that song, and that's kind of higher up on the chart. There's not many women on this chart. That's another thing that Texas and Nashville actually have in common. Randy Rogers Band is on here. Reed Southall, Mason Lively, love Mason. John Bauman, finally know how to say your name. Yeah, I mean, tons of these people. And Aaron Watson. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I act like I'm so illiterate about this scene, but I'm not. Oh, Wilder Blue. Oh, Wilder Blue. Wilder Blue. Maybe one day we'll have like an amazing Virginia scene. And actually, we do. There's a new song called Virginia by a band called Scythian.
Virginia, who do you think you are?
I've never heard them, but I freaking love this song and have taken many a selfie at the exact overpass where they filmed this music video. But yeah, that was just my little dip into the Texas scene, see what's going on down there. It's good to do a check-in and be aware. Like I said, I have a whole video on what makes Texas country special. Check that out, and I'll be back with more videos very soon. Love y'all.